Hey my dears, first of all, click the like button so you don't forget, okay? This helps me a lot, thank you. Alto Goldfilled is a first-year student at the Ortigia School of Magic. Despite achieving perfect scores in all other subjects, he has just failed the summoning exam because he cannot form a contract with a familiar. As a result, he won't be able to proceed to his second year. His professor claims that this task isn't difficult. Some students have even formed contracts with rhinoceros beetles. Regardless, Alto must form a contract with any familiar before the faculty meeting the next morning. Lilia Cutelfute, Alto's friend, anxiously runs through the corridor to find out if he passed the test. Alto delivers the bad news, leaving Lilia saddened. Alto worked hard not only to gain admission to the academy, but also to excel in all challenging subjects. However, the one thing he can't do is summon a familiar, jeopardizing all his efforts. Still, he has until the next day to try again. In the library, he contemplates what he could summon. Familiar master compatibility is crucial, and Alto has already attempted various types. Perhaps now he should try something truly strange and unique. Suddenly, a book floats off the shelf above Alto's head and lands on him. He picks up the book, joking that it would be quite a coincidence if it were a familiar summoning book. Later, he realizes that it is indeed such a book. It's ancient, and he has no idea what he might summon. The pages are well preserved, and he can still read the magical circle inscribed within. He draws the circle on the floor and utters the magical invocation words. The circle begins to glow, an unprecedented occurrence. Alto completes the ritual by offering a drop of his own blood. A slender female figure emerges from the billowing black smoke, surprising him. From the billowing smoke emerges a slender female figure with sinuous curves, purple hair, red eyes, horns, and a pointed tail, all of which draw attention, along with her bust. The woman asserts that Alto is the only one who managed to free her. Alto wonders what he has summoned. She appears to be a naked human. Observing how innocent Alto seems, she smiles and asks what he wants her to do, anything at all. Alto is utterly embarrassed. He has likely never seen something so beautiful and seductive before. Stammering, he confesses that he wants her as his familiar. A golden light envelopes them, and multiple beams of light swirl around the two. The woman marvels at how much mana the young lad possesses. A contract forms, leaving marks on both of them. Alto bears a mark on his right hand, while the woman has one on her bust. She acknowledges that Alto is quite strong and accepts their situation. After all, a contract is a contract. With that, she will draw upon her master's mana in return. Swiftly, she approaches Alto and presses her lips to his, siphoning a significant portion of his magical power. She introduces herself as Vermeil, a demon. Tracing her hand over her master's chest, she declares her willingness to do anything he asks. In response, Alto requests that she immediately put on some clothes. She playfully calls him a strange little creature. Does he truly prefer her clothed? Unless he's an eccentric wolf in the guise of a timid sheep, she muses. Blushing and incredibly embarrassed, Alto implores her to stop talking about it and just find some clothes. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, none of Alto's clothes fit her. He mentions that there are some of his sister's clothes in the bottom drawer. They should do the trick. Vermeil then selects a short and sexy dress, asking her master if it looks good. He blushes even more. Somehow, she appears even sexier than before. Later, Alto explains about the Magic Academy and his problem with summoning familiars. Vermeil finds it amusing but acknowledges that it makes sense. After all, Alto's mana is so vast that most familiars wouldn't dare approach him. His magic is like poison to many beings. Nevertheless, Vermeil admits that she likes him handsome and potent. Demons are powerful illusory beings that have been feared by humanity in that world for ages. Some are capable of destroying entire nations. Alto asks why she accepted him. After all, she could break the contract if she wanted due to her immense power. Indeed, she could, but Vermeil was trapped in that book for quite some time, and Alto was her liberator. Technically, she owes him a debt, and being his familiar is a small price for her freedom. Alto becomes curious. Why was she sealed? Vermeil finds his curiosity interesting and explains that it was because she had done many impertinent things. Alto then wonders if he can truly have a demon as his familiar and questions Vermeil if she is an evil being. The woman finds his comment amusing and says it's a matter of perspective. Later, Alto visits his academy professor, embarrassed as he introduces his newest familiar. The professor assumes Vermeil is just an ordinary human, and despite knowing that Alto is desperate, this situation cannot be accepted. Vermeil becomes agitated and slams her hand on the table, revealing the contract mark on her bust. The professor is impressed. Not only is it indeed a familiar mark, but the view is also quite beautiful, right? He becomes confused. Never in history has one person made another their familiar. Vermeil asks who cares and instructs him to confirm quickly that Alto has a familiar. Thus, Alto passes the exam and can advance to the second year. The professor questions whether it's truly acceptable for her to remain as a familiar. After all, she would essentially be Alto's servant. She doesn't mind. Right behind them, Lilia seethes with jealousy, wondering who on earth that woman is. During class, Vermeil is bold, constantly clinging to her master. This infuriates Lilia, who broke her pen in anger. She stayed up all night worrying about Alto. The professor reprimands the student, advising him to avoid such behavior in class. However, Vermeil retorts that many other students hold their familiars, and one of the school's doctrines is to live alongside their familiars. The professor is left speechless and asks Alto to pay attention to the lecture regardless. Vermeil gets carried away and implores Alto to give her more of that thick and potent thing within him. This is the last straw for Lilia, who stands up and shouts, demanding to know what they're doing. For yelling in class, the professor sends Lilia out into the corridor. After class ends, Lilia rushes to find her friend, seeking an explanation. Vermeil asks who that woman is, and Lilia echoes the same question. At that moment, Alto recalls the previous day when Vermeil mentioned disguising herself as a human. Magicians utterly despise demons, but fortunately, common magicians cannot see through her veil. She just needs to hide her tail and horns. Back in the present, Alto responds to his friend, stating that Vermeil is an acquaintance. Lilia, consumed by rage, yanks off her tie and hurls it at Alto, challenging him to a duel. If he loses, he must confine his familiar to his room, using her only when necessary. In a duel within the academy, two individuals challenge each other, and the loser must carry out any order given by the winner. Vermeil then declares that if Alto wins, Lilia will have to obey one of his commands. Lilia blushes, her mind racing with heated thoughts. The three proceed to an altar, where the battle is broadcast throughout the academy via magical screens. Lilia summons her familiar, Sylphide, a high-level wind spirit. Vermeil is impressed that she can summon such a powerful spirit at her age. Lilia boasts that the combination of her powers with her familiar is incredibly potent. While Alto may be strong, without a familiar, he is no match for her. Consumed by jealousy, the girl hurls her magic with all her might. Alto considers dodging, but it's too late. Vermeil steps in front of him, urging him to trust her. Vermeil takes a direct hit, and Lilia believes victory is hers. However, through the smoke, a silhouette remains standing. Vermeil hasn't suffered a scratch. Now it's her turn to attack. Concentrating immense power, she launches a deadly force at Lilia, who gasps erotically. Lilia loses the duel and must now obey her opponent's command. Excited yet embarrassed, she complies when Alto asks her and Vermeil to be friends. Duel agreements cannot be broken. They shake hands, with Lilia addressing Vermeil as Senora. Vermeil finds this amusing, especially after Lilia's defeat. A sense of enmity lingers between them. Later, at Alto's home, he implores his familiar not to cause further trouble. Vermeil rebuffs him, claiming no responsibility, and hints that the girl is smitten with him. But Alto says it's not possible. Lilia is a childhood friend, and she's always angry with him for strange reasons, but she's a good friend. At that moment, Vermeil claims that she worked hard today and deserves a treat. She approaches Alto, requesting his mana through a kiss. Afterward, Alto asks why she needs to drain mana. Vermeil explains that she was sealed for centuries, leaving her weak. Without Alto, she wouldn't even be able to maintain a human form. The boy feels grateful. He's gaining a lot for a low price. However, his familiar responds that having a demon as a familiar is entirely unfeasible for regular magicians. They'd either explode from within or have their mana completely drained. In Alto's case, he possesses what's necessary for the contract. Vermeil also mentions other ways to drain mana besides the kiss and asks if he'd like to try while she caresses his body. Alto thinks the kiss is just fine. Thank you for watching, my dear. Press the like button and subscribe to continue. See you next time. The next day, Alto and his hot demon return to class while he asks her to try not to draw too much attention. Everyone devours her with their eyes, but a dragon-type familiar catches everyone's attention. Vermeil agrees not to overdo anything, so she flicks the dragon, sending it flying like Team Rocket. Later, an instructor congratulates everyone while Alto complains about his partner drawing too much attention with that little blow. But it's actually something else that grabs the other students' attention. Big melons.
Oh, big.
No.
It's so big.
During the class, the professor explains the seals that lock demons and how it's impossible for them to break free, but Lilia just wants Vermeil to stay away from her crush. After class, Lilia and Vermeil fight over Alto again, but are interrupted by a crybaby and his brown-haired brother, demanding an explanation for the dragon that was thrown away by them earlier. But Vermeil and Alto had already forgotten about that. Vermeil starts acting like a victim while Alto comes from behind and uses his crystal magic on them. But the veteran reveals his familiar, a very powerful red dinosaur. The veteran thinks Vermeil is hot, but wants to see her regret what she did. Alto doesn't like that at all. Vermeil then hugs him from behind and gives him some of the mana she had sucked before, giving Alto a boost that allows him to defeat the dinosaur with another advanced crystal magic. After the confusion, Vermeil thinks school is really a drag, wondering if this will help Alto get what he wants. If he wants to be rich, she can do that easily. Alto doesn't want her to do anything illegal, but what he really wants is to become an incredible mage. The Academy mages are divided into bronze, silver, and gold. It's already very difficult to reach the bronze level, and Alto wants to be better than the gold level, an elite level. A special level given to the highest achiever of the gold level. Vermeil then promises to fulfill her master's dream while suffocating him in her breasts. She then takes off her dress. Yes, she simply takes her dress because she wants a little milk now.
Yeah, boy.
So big.
Saying she needs more mana, so Alto better be prepared because the night will be hot. The next day, Vermeil is radiant after the wonderful night she had. Marx Parston shows up, an old friend of Alto and Lilia, accompanied by Cheryl. Marx considers himself Alto's rival, but Vermeil thinks he's just an idiot. The professor sees them there and says that the Academy president wants to see them. Alto, Lilia, and Cheryl are summoned to compete for the student representative position. For that, one of them needs to complete a challenge to get the fairy flower by 6 p.m. There is only one such flower at the moment, and after some time, Alto and Lilia find it, but it's being guarded by a Cerberus. Lilia then shows that she has an invisibility potion, to which Alto wonders why she has that item stored. She wanted to spy on Alto while he was getting excited, but ends up fumbling with her words. The Cerberus has a great sense of smell, but it has a cold today. Lilia then drinks the potion, but her clothes do not turn invisible. She had forgotten about that and starts to take off her clothes. It's when she realizes she is literally stripping in front of Alto. Well, she is invisible, so it's not a problem, right? Even so, she still dies of embarrassment. It's then that Alto realizes he was almost letting her win the contest. He asks what new power Vermeil gave him the previous day, but she had only amplified the mana he had given her before. That Cerberus can be easily defeated, but before that, Vermeil wants to savor her master a little more. She then grabs him and throws him to the ground, thoroughly enjoying his body and showing off her big melons.
Wow!
All that for a kiss, Vermeil? Meanwhile, Lilia tries to pass by the dog, but it seems one of the heads wasn't sick and senses her smell. Alto attacks at the crucial moment, telling Lilia to go on. Vermeil then apologizes before launching a powerful crushing blow that puts the dog to sleep. She is impressed to see that Alto managed to fight even after she had sucked him dry.
Nice.
After that, Lilia brings the flower to Alto since she doesn't consider herself to have won. Her potion wears off at the last moment, and Alto sees everything she has to offer.
Wow!
Unfortunately, the flower flies away and lands in Cheryl's hands, who did absolutely nothing. Vermeil delights in an ice cream. It didn't exist in her time, so she's impressed. Our dear demon is hundreds of years old, and Alto is curious to know more about his sugar mommy. But a bunch of dragons flying overhead catches their attention. All are piloted by Dragon Knights, a club with people who have dragon familiars. While walking, Vermeil offers her ice cream to Alto, who even gets embarrassed, despite having sucked her tongue many times. After that, the 5 friends discuss the student council members who achieved gold level at the academy. The most famous of them is Chris, the captain of the Dragon Club, whom Marx finds completely incredible. This catches Alto's attention, who wants to become someone like them, but suddenly he is smothered by large airbags.
So
Nice.
Vermeil is sure that her master's wish is easy for him. While Lilia is dying of jealousy in the locker room, Vermeil curiously examines her master's piece. He scolds her because he asked her to wait outside, but she couldn't change there. Lilia then appears, saying she should have gone to the girls' locker room and not the boys', and that she also wanted to spy on Alto while he was changing. At that moment, the student council walks by the corridor while being admired by everyone. The 5 are gold level, and one of them is intrigued by Vermeil. During the bath, Alto thinks the student council is really amazing, and even Vermeil agrees with him. He is startled to see her in her natural state, taking a bath with him completely off guard. And oh my god, Vermeil is stunned to see how well-built Alto's sword is. Guys, isn't this going too far? They even end up touching each other, and Vermeil states that they should do this because she gives him strength, then asks Alto to use her as he wishes. Later, elsewhere, we see Chris, the captain of the Dragon Knights, facing veteran Rex, who was defeated by Alto earlier. She learns that Alto has a human woman as a familiar and soon becomes interested in him. Chris crushes Rex, calling him weak and humiliating him as trash for losing to a freshman, thus denying his request to join the Dragon Knights. Rex sees that Lilia was right about the Dragon Knights. They're just a bunch of arrogant and despicable bastards. Later, Rex is hospitalized and Alto finds out about it and visits him. Rex says he ended up like this because of a certain bitch, but none of this is Alto's fault, so he doesn't need to worry. Alto learns from Rex's brother that the bitch who left him like this was the infamous Chris, so he challenges her to a duel. When they arrive, Chris talks a lot of crap and then summons her dragon familiar. Alto then summons Vermeil and they kiss. The golden mana that comes out of the two catches Chris's attention. The duel begins. Alto uses his crystal magic, which is easily repelled by Chris, who uses fire magic. Vermeil defends and says she shouldn't use her full power against a freshman, but Chris says a dragon never uses all its power for small prey. The two continue exchanging blows while Chris acts like an impulsive idiot, trying to humiliate Alto. Vermeil amplifies mana for her master, and they perform a double attack. Chris couldn't defend against it, so she jumped straight to her dragon, boasting about how dragons are superior because they can fly. Haha, right? Vermeil defends and withstands several of Chris's flaming attacks, transferring mana to Alto again. This time, they come up with a plan. Alto uses a vast amount of mana, impressing Chris. Summoning a large crystal pillar, Chris scoffs, saying the same attack won't work twice, and destroys the pillar. However, Alto and Vermeil disappear from the arena and reappear behind her, using the crystal shards to reach her. Alto corners Chris with a sharp crystal shard, winning the battle. After the battle, Alto is praised by sycophantic girls, while Lilia knows those sluts are worthless. Alto's professor congratulates him, but warns that he can't challenge just anyone without a valid reason, and Alto knows this well. As punishment, Chris has to do community service for the rest of her life. Rex finds this great. He's healed from his wounds and feels a bit sorry for Chris, so he helps her a little, despite her earlier nastiness. She even blushes. Later, while sleeping, Vermeil takes the opportunity to give Alto a French kiss, startling him with something pleasant entering his mouth. He complains she can't do that while he's asleep and tells her to get dressed. Vermeil, on the other hand, teases him, asking if he doesn't like her kisses. A flustered Alto says kisses should be for someone he loves. Vermeil thinks that's great because she's completely in love with Alto. What a hot couple. The next day, Alto says Vermeil doesn't know when to stop and should have said she wanted something else too. She's radiant. When he remembers Vermeil saying she loved him, he wonders if that can really happen. Can a demon fall in love with a human? Alto's professor is intrigued by this question. Demons have been very influential in the history of magic, but there's no known true romance between them, apart from the interest of incubi and succubi. In the end, a succubus can fall in love with a human, but because of his mana. This disheartens Alto a bit. Later at lunch, Vermeil notices her master is acting strange. He hasn't touched his food. He goes straight to the point and asks if she's only there because of his mana. Vermeil understands everything and hugs him, then kisses him. He complains she's doing it again, but realizes she didn't touch his mana this time. Vermeil repeats that she should only kiss someone she loves. She then complains he's giving her a lot of work, as he can also kiss her whenever he wants. The next day, they are both more radiant than ever. Alto meets his former professor, Sensei Obsidian, and apologizes for the strange questions the other day. The professor wishes Alto good luck in love, but warns him to always be careful, as women, succubi or not, have a little demon inside them. Yes, I can confirm that, haha. Later, one of Obsidian's students, who is madly in love with him, is called by him. They hug, but the professor seems to have other plans as he shows a strange substance. After that, the student is found frozen in one of the academy's rooms. The rumor spreads among the students and reaches the council's ears. Shinuji and his colleague Jessica discuss this, and it's already the fourth case of a frozen student. A thick wall of ice covered the door where the victim was, and coincidentally, this same student uses ice magic. Despite this type of magic is ineffective on women. Later, Alto measures the height of his sugar mommy for a surprise report on the student's familiars. He is perplexed to describe a demon, but Vermeil seems very interested in seeing Alto analyzing her body. As expected, Vermeil soon starts undressing so Alto could better analyze certain parts. He is, of course, very embarrassed, but Vermeil is active and tells him to hold her melons to feel their full size. While Vermeil is having fun, Lilia spies on her crush's house with Cheryl. She gets furious with the situation and soon comes up with a plan to save Alto. Curiously, she has a copy of Alto's room key and another invisibility potion. She takes off her clothes and tells Cheryl to wait. Alto measures Vermeil's melons while she asks him to squeeze them hard. He needs to describe her as human because demons are poorly regarded by everyone at the academy. Lilia infiltrates the male dormitory and is about to discover that Vermeil is actually a demon. But when she finally reaches Alto's room, he asks Vermeil to remove her horns so he can measure her head normally. Lilia watches them from in front of the bookshelf, and at that moment, Alto needs one of the books there. He almost touches and kisses Lilia, and she is completely perplexed and embarrassed. It was the wrong book, so when he goes to find the right one, it's at the level of Lilia's melons, and he's about to touch her company. Alto finds the book, but it seems his finger also found something else on Lilia's body, as she gets very excited. After this confusion, Vermeil says Alto is one step closer to his goal because he defeated Chris, who is gold level. However, he felt Chris was holding back in the duel and ended up being caught by surprise in the end. If she had gone all out, Alto would certainly lose. Thus, Alto says in the report that Vermeil likes sweets, but before they go shopping, she adds Alto's name in the same section. Cute. Elsewhere, Chris is violently defeated along with her dragon. We see Rex with a new bizarre familiar, completely consumed by rage. Hey my dears. Have you ever wanted to draw your own anime character, or even become a professional artist? Dude, check this out. Anime Art Academy brings together professional artists from Japan. You can actually learn from real mangakas. And you know the best part? You can start for free to get a taste of the journey. Check out the art from one of the professors. Hot, right? The link is in the description, okay? The first familiar summoned by Rex was a giant dragon egg. Chris became interested in Rex's egg, and that's how they met. Wait, what? Alto and Vermeil stroll through the city. While he thinks about what to make for dinner, his sugar mommy only cares about sweets. Alto promises to give her anything she wants if she helps him with his tasks. Vermeil is delighted and gives him a big kiss in front of everyone. Then, Rex's brother shows up asking for help. Rex completely crushes Chris. She asks what he did, but even he isn't sure. Part of his body is covered by strange stones. Chris takes the beating without fighting back, which frustrates Rex even more. When she tearfully begs him to stop, Alto and the others arrive. Rex thinks it's great and wants to fight Alto. He summons his dinosaur, also covered in strange stones. Vermeil notices something odd about that mana, and just as they prepare to attack, a white-haired girl appears. She's incredibly fast and uses her judgment sword to defeat Rex with several blows at once. Her name is Elena, and she wants to punish Rex in the name of absolute justice. She helps Chris, calling her a disgrace for losing to someone so weak. Rex calls her a bitch and tells her not to interfere in the fight, but soon collapses, out of strength. Chris tells Elena to go to hell and runs to Rex. Funny how she's so worried about him now. Elena asks Vermeil if she recognizes that power, but she denies it. At the student council, the group discusses these strange incidents and who might have caused them. Chris bangs on the table and storms out in the middle of the meeting. Jessica doesn't understand it. Chris herself punished Rex before, so why this grudge now? Chris likes to be tough on her toys, but dislikes when others mistreat what's hers. The bronze level exam is approaching, and this is Alto's chance. Vermeil says she's tired and will go back to the room while he studies. Lilia finds it strange. Vermeil never leaves Alto's side. She's been acting odd since the confrontation with Rex. Lilia sees that she's finally alone with Alto and almost invites him to study in her room. Oh, Lilia, Just confess your love and make it a harem. On her way back, Vermeil encounters Alto's professor and senses the same mana as before. She's been watching him and knows he's behind everything. Vermeil says it's none of her business, but that's too much power for a human, so he better be careful. She doesn't intend to tell anyone, but if Professor Obsidian lays a finger on Alto, Vermeil will completely shred his soul. However, she underestimated Obsidian. In a moment of distraction, Vermeil is caught by the drug used by the professor and becomes numb. While Lilia tries to get Alto to notice her in every way, he senses through their bond that Vermeil is in danger. Suddenly, the atmosphere changes. Everyone at the academy feels a terrible mana covering everything. Elena, the student council president, rushes at high speed to the source of this mana, but is blocked by a strange magical being, a golem of several mysterious paper talismans. Meanwhile, Vermeil's powers go out of control, and she completely changes into a much more demonic form. Obsidian is perplexed by such power. Obsidian dedicated his entire life to this moment. Vermeil gets furious and launches a monstrous attack against Obsidian, which he manages to dodge at the last moment, but only because Vermeil is under the effect of the drug. When Alto and Lilia arrive, they're astonished by the situation. Vermeil is in a completely demonic and uncontrolled form. When Alto asks for an explanation, Obsidian is even impressed to see that he still doesn't understand everything. After all, Alto is a magnificent genius. Obsidian developed a magical method to condense madness itself, which wasn't easy and required many tests on subjects. This drug drives magic insane and makes the subject completely uncontrollable. The primary target was a true demon, Vermeil. Thus, Obsidian says he was behind everything, literally everything. Oh my god, he dropped that book on Alto so that he would summon Vermeil, and finally managed to control a true demon. He is fully confident that he now controls Vermeil completely. But Alto's heart can't accept this, and in a state of fury, all his immense amount of mana flows into Vermeil, freeing her from Obsidian's control. Vermeil is burning with rage and charges at the professor to finish him off, but Alto instinctively throws himself in front of her and is impaled by his beloved. With Alto's body on the ground, Vermeil goes even more insane, breaking all limits with her powers. She's ready to destroy Obsidian in every possible dimension. But again, Alto jumps on Vermeil and hugs her, calming her fury. Seeing that there is still a small flame of life in her beloved's body, Vermeil calms down and uses the golden mana she received from him before in a kiss. The professor is astonished by this act. True demons can even bypass death? He wonders. The golden magic used by Vermeil fully heals Alto's body. Obsidian goes mad, crying for having lost the sugar mommy to Alto. He injects himself with the madness drug, but this one is slightly different and grants him demonic powers as well, giving him a monstrous new body. But before Vermeil, he is nothing. She repels him with ease. The professor despairs and sees no choice but to flee like a coward. However, on his way out, he runs into Chris, who throws fireballs at him. Vermeil appears behind him and punches him hard, sending him back to the ground. Vermeil decides to let him live since that's what Alto wanted. Later, after Alto wakes up, Vermeil explains what happened and that she pierced his chest with her attack, apologizing afterward. But Alto says apologies aren't necessary since he's fine, as if nothing happened. But it's not quite like that. Alto is dead, and bringing him back had a cost. Vermeil used her own heart to bring Alto back to life. This means that now, Alto has Vermeil's heart beating in his chest. And it also means that if Vermeil dies, he will die too. Just as if Alto dies, Vermeil will also die. Alto then says she shouldn't have done that. She would live for millennia, while he would die as an ordinary human. Now he understands why she was apologizing. Elena was fighting a co-conspirator who disappeared after Obsidian's defeat, who was arrested by the city guard. Many mysteries still lingered over the academy, but the incident was resolved for now. With Vermeil's heart, Alto now needs to draw mana from his beloved periodically to stay alive, but in a few years, this will no longer be necessary. Thus, Vermeil intends to leave, as she considers herself a monster and shouldn't be near Alto. Alto calls her silly and kisses her passionately. He then throws her against the wall and says she is his familiar, and he needs her now and always. This makes Vermeil blush deeply, as well as Alto, who runs off immediately afterward. During the night, Vermeil was touched by Alto's words. Sometime later, Vermeil is still feeling down about everything that happened. Lilia finds her and says she always suspected Vermeil was hiding something. Lilia comforts her, saying it doesn't matter if she's a demon, what matters is whether she's good or bad. Alto is her master, so she should take better care of him since she's his familiar after all. Vermeil is surprised by Lilia's confidence and thanks her. When Vermeil returns home, she finds Alto, who is looking for her. He asks if she feels better, as she wanted to be alone for a bit. Vermeil has reflected a lot, and despite everything that happened and the fact that she's a demon, she really wants to stay by her master's side. She's completely in love with him, and he's all she wants the most. Even when she was alone, she couldn't stop thinking about him and how much she wanted to kiss him. Alto feels very relieved to know that her words are completely sincere and from the bottom of her heart. They kiss passionately. The next day, Vermeil decides she now wants to dress like the other academy students, but her airbags are too big for the uniform. Alto sees he's going to die of embarrassment in class again and decides to buy new clothes later. Meanwhile, two mysterious people discuss Professor Obsidian's failure and how it was a mistake to let him join the group. Several mages were defeated there, and the last one tries to attack with everything, but is easily knocked against a pillar. These two are Heliodor and Iolite, both platinum class, but Iolite was banned. When Alto and Vermeil finally go to class, everyone ogles Vermeil. Alto's classmates thank him profusely for this. Seeing Vermeil in a short and tight school uniform was the best thing they could get. The bronze level classification exam is approaching, and this is Alto's chance to start his dream, so he calls Vermeil to act. Obeying her master, Vermeil pulls him into an alley in the hallway and starts kissing him. He says that's not what he meant, but Vermeil teases him by showing her big melons and asking if he doesn't like her kisses.
That's really impressive. Whoa. Whoa, just whoa. Bravo.
Alto can't resist that face. But in the end, Alto will need a lot of mana for the test. In the classroom, they are interrupted by the student council, who declare that Alto is under their custody. Elena herself asks if he would accompany them. At the council, Elena first apologizes for not being able to prevent Alto from getting hurt in the fight. Alto was worried if they discovered Vermeil as a demon, but none of them know who was involved in the fight. They also can't interrogate Obsidian because he escaped from prison. So, they rely on Alto's testimony now. Alto feels relieved, as it seems they don't know anything. However, before anything else, Elena asks if Alto is hiding something from them. This scares him, and before he can do anything, he is immobilized by Jessica, and Vermeil is surrounded by Shinuji's blades. This wouldn't stop Vermeil, but they only needed to detain her master. Alto tries to lie, but Vermeil stops him. That wouldn't be good at all. So he reveals that Vermeil is a demon. This surprises everyone, and Elena smiles. Alto exclaims that Vermeil is not evil, and that they can do whatever they want with him, even expel him, but leave Vermeil alone. At first, Alto wanted a familiar just to progress in the academy, but now it's different. Vermeil is much more important than the academy and even his personal dream. However, Elena doesn't want to harm them or tell the superiors. A demon could be incredibly useful to them. Besides, one of the superiors turned out to be an enemy, Obsidian. It wouldn't be right to trust the others. Jessica doesn't like this, but Elena believes it's okay. She knows that Alto and Vermeil's lives are intertwined and would only need to take down Alto to defeat Vermeil too. But despite this, she trusts the two of them and then concludes by asking if Alto wants to be part of the student council committee. Alto suspects this is to keep an eye on him. Elena confesses that it might be that too, but she genuinely wants him on the council. After all, he defeated Chris, one of the academy's 5 strongest mages. Later in the dormitory, Alto apologizes for them discovering what Vermeil really is, but she doesn't mind. As long as Alto is fine, so is she. She also warns him about Elena, the council president. That girl doesn't seem human. Alto was in real danger at that moment. He thinks he needs to become stronger. If things continue like this, maybe everyone will eventually find out that Vermeil is a demon. And he needs to protect her from anything. This excites Vermeil, who wants to make him stronger right now. She then takes off his shirt and covers him in kisses. The next day, Alto promises to become stronger than the student council and even become the strongest in the world. That's his dream, and he will use the council to his advantage. But when he opens the council room door, he finds the hottest girls in the student council in their best outfits. Elena and Chris don't seem to care much, but Jessica is completely embarrassed, saying she doesn't accept a pervert like Alto joining. Elena says it wasn't his fault, as they forgot to lock the door. Elena then starts talking about the reason for the meeting and shows a piece of paper from the golem she fought. The magic of that thing is completely unknown and undecipherable. This means the enemy is someone of platinum class. Far away, Heliodor and Iolite go to meet Koha Kumiya. I'll call her Koha. She is also platinum level. We see those same paper dolls floating around her. And inside a capsule behind her, there's a strange and mysterious creature. Iolite had just returned from his last mission, complaining that the High Priest was a pain and wouldn't give in for anything. This High Priest was Hasteful of the Golden Tower, the most skilled spellcaster among the platinum level. Koha thought Iolite had managed to bring him to their side, but he actually killed him. Their goal now is to hunt down Alto and Vermeil. Later, Alto has a strange dream where he sees a crying child Vermeil. Soon a strange woman gives her two options to follow, the path of justice that can benefit everyone or the path of destruction that will benefit only her. Unable to sleep, Alto decides to study for the bronze level exam, but Vermeil wakes up and sees that her master needs to relax. She immediately pulls him into bed, where he drowns in her big airbags. Vermeil says all the help he needs to pass the test is right there in bed. They just need to suck each other and exchange mana until dawn. The next day, Alto sees the book where Vermeil was sealed, wondering who the mage that did that was. He can't read that language, so he puts it in his bag before leaving. It's the day of the bronze level exam, and the first test consists of depositing mana into a crystal ball. Whoever can deposit the most mana wins. Everyone thinks this is too easy, but Alto suspects there's a trick to it all. The test begins and several students attempt to transfer all their mana to the crystal, but nothing happens. Everyone is failing. Just as Alto said, this test has a secret and Lilia knows what it is. That crystal is very good at storing mana, and the student's mistake is depositing the mana into the crystal itself rather than into the flame, which is the actual goal of the test. So, she stands out. After her, a few other students also managed to succeed, including some from the same class, though not all. Alto is the last candidate. When he approaches, everyone is puzzled by his accompaniment and how large that woman is. The inspector was about to complain, but the examiner says he received a note from the academy about Alto. It's the first time he's seen someone with a human familiar and is astonished by her size. Quite large, right? Haha. Up close, Alto understands his earlier sensation and, upon analyzing the crystal, he understands how the mechanism works. This crystal has a deliberate design to make mana entry difficult, but there is a specific point where access is much easier. Only those with extensive knowledge of magical formulas and a keen eye can see this point. However, when Alto begins the test, Vermeil says that is not the correct spot. The examiner sees that Alto is aiming for the most difficult point on the crystal. Thus, Alto demonstrates his mana in the hardest way possible. After so many times exchanging mana with Vermeil, this test seems incredibly easy for him. His mana is so potent that the flame glows intensely silver. Vermeil then tells him not to hold back. Alto gives it his all and the crystal explodes into several pieces. The guy is ridiculously strong. Alto is scared, thinking he might be disqualified for this, but he passes with the highest marks. Not even a gold level could achieve that, and even a platinum level would have difficulty. Alto's power is monstrous. Later, after the test, the friends gather to rest. The written test is still left, so they can't celebrate just yet. Vermeil knows how good her master is at written tests, so he doesn't need to worry. After this, Vermeil gives Alto a reward for his earlier effort. They kiss intensely, but it's already time for the second test. So they get ready to go. On the way, Alto sees a student from another academy who was in the first test. The same student goes to the bathroom, thinking that the students from Ortigia Academy think they're the best. Then, Iolite appears and strikes the student down, saying he will borrow his name. Meanwhile, Jessica and Elena are discussing Alto and Vermeil while bathing. Jessica doesn't understand why Alto would let a demon have his heart. For Elena, the reason is obvious: love. The second test begins, and this time familiars cannot accompany the students. Vermeil then goes for a walk while Alto takes the written test. He rushes to choose his seat as he arrived just in time. After that, the last student enters the room and sits next to Alto, and this student is Eyelight. Alto started taking the exam, but got distracted when he noticed Eyelight had fallen asleep. Alto tried to ignore him and focus on the exam. He noticed that the questions were harder than in previous years. Eyelight finally woke up and quickly finished the exam in seconds. He looked at Alto, mocking him for being slow. They were reprimanded for talking, but Eyelight didn't care. Suddenly, a guard rushed over to report the body of the student killed by Eyelight. They realized that Eyelight was not a real student. Eyelight summoned a huge stone golem. He said he took the test for fun and revealed he was after Alto. Alto realized that Eyelight was the one working with obsidian. The previous examiner broke in and saved the professor. Vermeil jumped through the window, attacking with her demonic magic, but the golem blocked her. It was revealed that Eyelight was the youngest mage to reach the platinum rank and was called the strongest mage. Lilia and the others tried to help them, but they discovered the building was protected by magic that Heliodor used to prevent them. Eyelight transformed his golem, equipping it with many cannons. Alto tried to attack, but the golem blocked all attacks. The building was destroyed, and Vermeil was captured. Alto became furious, and his golden mana began to glow around him. He unleashed an incredible attack, destroying the golem with a single strike. Alto became a Super Saiyan, vowing to protect Vermeil at all costs. Eyelight was forced to summon his knight and managed to stab Alto. Eyelight revealed his plan to use Vermeil's demonic powers to destroy the world. Alto became furious, and at the same time, Vermeil transformed into her demonic form. However, Vermeil was chained by magic. With this magic, Eyelight could seal her powers, returning her to human form. Eyelight decided to finish off Alto, but the book Vermeil had sealed blocked the attack. A woman appeared, the same one Alto had seen in his dream. She was the early mage and the one who sealed Vermeil. The witch immediately sent Alto into Vermeil's memories. He found himself 550 years ago and saw a child version of Vermeil. The mage explained that Vermeil was raised by a nun along with a few other people. They lived together like a family, and Vermeil was happy that they knew she was a demon but loved her anyway. One day, the people discovered that Vermeil was a demon and blamed her for the plague that affected the town. So, they laid siege to the church. Her sister told her to run away, and she almost left town, but Vermeil heard people saying they would kill her family. Vermeil ran back, but it was too late, and she found her family hanged. She was devastated and angry until she entered her demon form for the first time. In the end, Vermeil killed everyone and burned the town to the ground, leaving only a giant crater. Alto was shocked by what he saw. The mage said this was Vermeil's crime and the reason she was sealed away. Alto discovered he could interact with Vermeil and comforted her. She turned into her adult self and cried that her crimes could never be forgiven. But Alto told her he didn't care and would always be by her side. They kissed, and the chains broke as Alto declared he loved her. In the real world, Eyelight summoned another golem that merged with his knight. Eyelight said the only reason for Vermeil's existence was to destroy the world, but Alto told him to shut up, saying Eyelight didn't know the real Vermeil. Alto combined his powers with Vermeil and launched his crystal attack. It collided with the golem's attack and destroyed it. Eyelight was not expecting that. He started to get more serious and prepared his magic. But he was stopped when Heliodor appeared from the portal. Heliodor said she could no longer maintain the space warp. Eyelight was disappointed but had no choice but to leave. He told Alto he would return one day to finish their fight. The early mage reappeared, surprising Alto. She called Vermeil a good friend and urged Alto to care for her. She said goodbye and repaired the building before disappearing. Lilia rushed to Alto, glad he was okay. A few days later, Alto trained to become stronger so he could protect Vermeil. Alto practiced swordplay with Jessica and martial arts with Chris. Very hot martial arts, by the way. He lost to both of them, but aimed to improve himself even more. Vermeil thanked Alto for accepting her and told him she loved him too. Alto was happy, and they hugged. The next day, at the student council meeting, Elena said that after the recent incident, They must protect the students and work together to stop attacks. Despite knowing they are facing the Platinum Mage, they all agreed. Lilia, Marcus, and Charola celebrated that they all passed the bronze rank exam, but when Alto didn't show up, Lilia jealously suspected he was doing something with Vermeil. This video has come to an end. Thank you for watching. Leave a like and subscribe for more, okay? See you soon.